This is great. Welcome, guys. We're really excited for you to come. We have Dawn and Jackie and Terry and Julie and Lorraine and Mary and Carol and Wendy, Nicole, Joanne. I love this. Rocky. I love these. You guys are so loyal, and we love having you come to these webinars. This is a great webinar tonight. We have about 100, I guess, what was it, about 110, 120 people who've registered. We usually get a smaller group that shows up, and what's so interesting is more and more people are watching recordings on their own time. But the beauty of you guys showing up is if you move your mouse and you go to the bottom of the screen, you're going to see the green share button. Go to the left of it, you'll see the chat box. You can click on the chat box, and there they go. I love this. Hi, Jackie from Alabama. Hi, Jessica from Delaware. Please type in where you're from. I want to make sure you can use the chat box because we've got great people with you tonight. And if this is something personal, it's like, push pause, self-care and burnout prevention. Gotta love this. Overwhelmed, stressed, and burned out feeling we all have experienced, especially since the height of the pandemic. Join our panel of successful fitness entrepreneurs for self-care strategies to avoid burnout while helping clients lead longer, fitter, healthier lives. And we keep hearing about mental health. And we've got these great presenters with us today. We have Jessica Moyer. Wave, Jessica, there she is, the pretty blonde. She's the author of Triumph Through the Tears, Finding Hope and Purpose Through Loss, and the 5 G's to a Stronger Mindset. And she's certified Ziglar Legacy Coach, John Maxwell Coach. She's a trainer at ACE Personal Training. Okay, and she's an ACE personal trainer, and she's helped thousands of women transform their lives over the past 12 years. I was going to say 12 months. I'm like, oh my gosh, 12 years. Kimberly Spreen-Glick, one of my favorite people, has over 25 years of experience, although she really is just in her early 30s, and presents internationally on fitness and yoga, as well as leadership and personal development. She served as the Senior Director of Group Fitness for Lifetime Fitness for over a decade. Woohoo. And she was also Idea Program Director of the Year. So she not only did it, she succeeded at it, which is wonderful to see. Gretchen Gegg is a highly experienced fitness instructor, educator, and presenter. She's been at several of our manias now. Her experience with various populations and their need for more than just fitness has led her to create the MIMO method. We're also going to put that website in the chat box. So Sean Sendigen is running our chat box for this webinar. And then we have the fabulous Connie Warasilla, who is the choreographer and co-founder of WATERinMOTION. She's a faculty member at SCW Fitness. She actually not only has run our WATERinMOTION certification, our Aqua certification, she also runs our meditation certification. And she is certified by ACE, AEA, AFA, let's keep going, everyone. Balanced Body, the Braining Center, Yoga Fit, Schwinn, Reebok Cycle, and Moms in Motion. And little did you guys know, she's also a marathon runner. I don't mention that a lot, do I, Connie? Very cool.
No.
So this is great. We're jumping right in. What are the warning signs of burnout? I'm starting with you, Jessica. What are the warning signs?
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. This is a hot topic right now as we transition back into another new form of life. And so for me, the women that I recognize when they're feeling burnout in my gym is overwhelm, exhaustion, becoming sick. You know, we become sick more often when we are exhausted, or inflammation in our body tends to rise, restlessness, not treating people very well, especially the people you love. So there's just so much that goes into the warning signals, and you shouldn't ignore them. You want to be proactive with them so you don't get to that point where you feel like you're going to explode. So that would be some of the warning signs that I would say to look for.
And what I like, Jessica, is what we talked about before we turned the camera on was, I feel like, you know, you get this bubbling up. You're really bubbling up and you've got this tight lid on it. You know, and what can we do? Just we don't have to take the whole lid off, but can we just slip the lid to the side to let off a little bit more steam? Connie, what are some of the things you've done and that you also recommend people to do to help manage, to see the warning signs of burnout?
Once you notice, if you notice, that's the biggest thing. Once you notice it, sometimes it's confusion or a lack of attention, or sometimes it can be that you just cry for no reason, or you really are not interested in things that you used to be really interested in. Once you can notice that, it's time to start implementing some little things. So it might just be the simple task of taking 15 seconds to take 3 deep breaths. You can do that anytime, anywhere. So that's like a little maintenance you could do through the day. You could get yourself some essential oil and just keep it in the little glove compartment and go before you get into work. Just take a moment and notice something beautiful. Oh, that was another one. When you're driving to work, play the beautiful game. Just try to find 5 things that you think are beautiful, just to notice. Gratitude has been a practice that has been very successful in keeping us all from getting emotionally burnt out. So if you're in the practice of journaling, that's a great idea. 2 of my favorites with Sara are the dance break from Grey's Anatomy. Dance breaks are great. Just put on a good song and just shake it out, bounce a little bit, and be a little silly. So you might need to do it in the closet, but still do it. Or like I was talking to Sara, spend time with a pet if you have a pet. Go for a quick walk, throw a ball in the backyard, pet your dog just for even 15 seconds. All of these are just little snippets of self-care that really help to manage the daily stress that we're ultimately going to always have.
And Connie, you actually have taken, could you share with us like how you took a week off from teaching? You did that once. You even took a whole year off.
Right. My husband got transferred to the Philippines, and I was really upset about it right then. My career was just bubbling along. But once I got to the Philippines, I realized that my career wasn't just bubbling along. I was bubbling over. And I had 2 very small children, and managing them and taking them with me while I was teaching had started to take its toll on me. So while I was in the Philippines, I really took the time. I took advantage of the time and stopped teaching almost completely. I had a Wednesday night water class at a very luxurious club in downtown Manila, and that was the only thing I taught. And taking that break allowed me to do some writing. It allowed me to do a lot of research. It allowed me to spend time with my children. It was at a crucial time. But we all don't have the luxury of a whole year. So sometimes you need to think to yourself, do I need a day? Do I need a week? Do I need a month? Do I just need 15 seconds? So I think, go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I do like that I got a question. What type of burnout are you referring to? Are we referring to the burnout that our students feel, that we feel as instructors, that we feel as both? I'm going to jump in, Gretchen, and say, do you feel like this applies across the board? I think you're muted.
Right. Yeah, 100% applies across the board. I work with clients who are health and fitness clients. So maybe they're wanting to lose weight, or for whatever reason, they found me for body positive reasons. I work with fitness professionals who are dealing with business stuff. And I deal with, people that are coming to me completely have nothing to do with fitness. But all the same things that we're talking about tonight apply across the board, which is kind of cool too, because people in your life that are not involved in fitness, but you're here for fitness. So this is information that can be relayed to just about anybody.
And what I do enjoy is that, I can't remember who said this. Kimberly, maybe it was you who stated this before we turned the camera on. No, maybe it was you, Jessica, who said, you can't just live this, when we try to take care of the burnout, we can't just live this as a reward. Maybe it was you, Connie. It was you, Connie. It was where it's like, all right, if I just finish one more email, if I just, when I finish my class on Friday, then I get to go for a walk on the beach. It's more of, you've got to take care of yourself along the way. Kimberly, I'm going to jump, in with you. How can we do this? How can we integrate this into our lives so that we don't get to that point where we're a bubbling pot over, going into the stove?
I think a big part of it is that as humans, we tend to go onto autopilot. So when you get into your routine and maybe you're teaching your classes, you're working with clients, and you get into this autopilot mode where you're just go, go, go. And we live in a go, crazy, busy, not enough hours in the day to get it all done kind of world. And so you have to be very intentional about switching from autopilot to manual mode. And that can be all of the suggestions that have been given, going for a walk. Maybe it's just that 15 seconds like Connie suggested, or giving yourself 20 minutes out in nature. I am a huge proponent of power naps. Don't even play. Those are so awesome in the middle of a day. And they actually make you more productive, which science has proven, which is awesome. Thank you for that, science. But also I'm a big proponent of flow. So being able to consciously schedule in your week at least a couple of times where you are engaging in planned, whether it's activities, hobbies, could be time with friends, family, could be running, hiking, running, not me, but I'll go hiking with you. Maybe it's knitting. For some people, it's painting, but it's engaging in some kind of activity that you're so happily absorbed in that you lose track of space and time. That just brings you fully to the present moment where you get off of that autopilot into manual mode, turns on the parasympathetic nervous system so you can kind of calm all of the energy systems down. The brain can come back to a place of ease. It's really an opportunity to call the energy back that you all as uplifters are probably spending the vast majority of your time, if I were to guess, putting out into the world. And thank you for that. You're being the nurturers, the uplifters, you're being there for other people, you're teaching, you're training, you're coaching, you're getting things done off the to-do list, you're meeting your obligations. But on a regular basis, you've got to call the energy back into you and into the moment so that you can find that place of ease and begin again from there.
And I think that's really, really important, Kimberly. I feel like we are givers. Like when we teach a class, I'm always, how is everybody else feeling? How are they doing? And the only person I notice is the one who walks out of the room, right? Or off the screen. Like, what did I do? And then we get off of Zoom. And then what do? We have to, I've got chicken thighs in the other room and cauliflower rice and green beans all ready to cook. And I'm like, I got to get off this webinar and then I got to go cook. It's like the taking care of people is in our nature as instructors, and it drifts over into all these other activities. And if we don't take care of ourselves, like Jessica, I saw you nodding your head. If we don't take care of ourselves, we will get burned out. And I had a great H2O muscle said, as an instructor, if I'm bored, my students are bored. I find that immersing in education or refreshing makes a huge difference, keeping things fresh. And I will read like McKinsey report or the Wall Street Journal and get like different ideas that I can pull back into my business. So I sometimes just get out of the industry to just kind of breathe a little bit. So Kimberly, Jessica, what are some other things that we can do? Like the next question is, what are the possible causes and risk factors of job stress and burnout? So what are some of these extra causes that happen?
It's funny because I'm experiencing that this week. I just started a new challenge in my gym, and people are coming for you. And then when you're not there, like tonight, I was like, sorry, my husband, who is a fitness instructor, he's subbing for me, which is great, but it's like a letdown. Like, she's not there. What am I going to do? So I think we have to let people know ahead of time, like, we're not always going to be there. You're in good hands. Being honest with people, letting them know you're human too. And I think someone touched on gratitude. That's one of my 5 Gs to a stronger mindset. is focusing on your blessings every single day. Because when we tend to look at all the things that aren't going right in our life, we tend to forget what we do have. And so when you start focusing on your gratitude, that's where your energy is going to go. So I encourage people to do that. Even if you're not journalers, keep a little notepad next to you, put it in your notes or text yourself, whatever it is, and let people know too that you're thankful for them. So there's some of my key takeaways to that question.
I really like that as well. I try to do it every day, but I know I succeed at least every other day, where I'll text somebody or I'll call somebody in my office, and Sean, you're not allowed to tell everybody that I do this. But I will, just to say thank you, this is good, because I feel like all I do is criticize and move and oh, that's a great start, but blah, 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 blah. And sometimes just to say thank you to somebody, it's not just for them, it's for me too. It makes me feel good. Now, Jessica, you've got to share with us, what are the 5 G's?
The 5 G's are generosity, which you just said, like giving just a little note to someone, that's being generous. Stepping outside yourself to show appreciation. Gratitude, growth, and by being on this tonight, you're growing. You're learning from other mentors or other peers. Grit, which, you know, we all have, right? You have to persevere. You have to be able to pick yourself up, or you won't survive. And then the last one is grace. And that's just as important, because we have to be able to forgive ourselves. We are not perfect. And so just practicing the pause, reaching out if you're sorry for something you did, definitely incorporating those 5 G's on a daily basis will really help you. For me, it's improving your mindset and just living a better, more purposeful life.
Oh, I really like that. Can you throw a link in? Oh, thank you. Sean already did this. Fantastic quote from Jessica's site, which is great. A purposeful life abounds when you live from the level of the soul. Love that. Can you also put the link into your book for the 5 G's?
Yes.
That's great. And Kimberly, yes, you're going to be leading our life coaching certification soon. And isn't it 8 hours? It's a full day.
Full day.
Yeah. So and some of those things I want to do them for myself. You know what I mean? I really want to do them for myself. Connie, I saw that you nodding like halfway through everything. Okay. What are your thoughts?
Gosh, this is like my new crowd. These are my people. You asked a question about, you know, what happens if we don't address this? And I think everybody just poo-poos stress and they say, oh, everybody has stress and it's not that big a deal. But unchecked, stress can wreak havoc so deeply in our bodies, in our minds, in our emotions. So keep in mind that unchecked, you can have mental consequences, depression, anxiety. It can lead to personality disorders. It can actually cause cardiovascular disease, high blood pressure, abnormal heart rate, even lead to stroke, obesity, diabetes. I mean, stress unchecked changes your body, and the heightened cortisol in your body can just ruin you. So I really beg everybody just to try one thing. Maybe it's drink 1 glass of water before a meal. Just sit and intentionally drink 1 glass of water. Or one of my absolute favorites is from David Goggins. I don't know if you guys have ever read about him, but David Goggins has a philosophy called the cookie jar. And anytime you're feeling overwhelmed, like you just can't do it, you just can't take the next step, you just can't go another minute, he says to reach into your personal cookie jar for that one accomplishment that you did do, that big thing. So for me personally, when I ran my first marathon, I thought that was undoable. I thought for sure they were going to have to come pick me up in the bus. But I finished it, and I put that in my cookie jar. So when there's an overwhelming task, or something just gets to be too tough, I go to that cookie jar and I say, you know what? You trained for it, you planned for it, you got up and you physically finished it. You can do this. So, know how awful stress can be in your body and do just one thing. It doesn't have to be a whole life change. You don't have to go off to India and be in an ashram for a month. Just one little thing can make the biggest difference, and do it a little bit all the time. That's all.
And Gretchen, how are you coaching your students to deal with stress, and some of the great insights that Kimberly, Jessica, and Connie have supplied?
So it's made me think of a fantastic TED Talk called How to Make Stress Your Friend by Kelly McGonigal. It's amazing. It was when I taught at Texas A&M, which I taught there for 10 years. I used to make all of my students watch it, like every single person. And it was, for many of the students, life-changing, because it talks about what I now know is a life coaching methodology. It's teaching you how to frame your thoughts around stress. So while stress is negative and can have some negative consequences, 90% of that stress, and it's totally made up, 90%, don't write that down. But a ton of that stress is just what we've told ourselves about that stress. So for example, I call it thought training with my clients. They have this neutral situation. It could be as simple as someone in your house, not my husband throws his socks on the floor, right? And I walk by this and I get myself all up in a tizzy about the socks on the floor, and I feel that stress, and then I tell myself that stress is bad, and it's this kind of vicious, endless cycle. Then I'm bubbling over, and then I finally go do that self-care that I didn't plan. Whereas sometimes if we can just train ourselves to look at our thoughts, just be really aware. It's called metacognition. That's your super fancy word for tonight. That just means thinking about what you're thinking about. If we can train ourselves to be really aware of what's going on in here, we can automatically keep that bubbling over back a little bit. And then throwing in little tips that we've all given and techniques that we've all given about that to help us continue. I don't know, I call it prioritizing, or looking at your motivation. But I know Sara had talked about keeping yourself out of that bubble over point. There's lots of cool ways I teach my clients to do that, but I won't keep everyone on here.
Would you do me a favor? Would you say that TED Talk name again? And I'll ask Sean to type it into the chat box for us. What was the name of the TED Talk?
It's How to Make Stress Your Friend.
How to Make Stress Your Friend.
And it's by Kelly McGonigal.
Kelly McGonigal.
McGonigal, yeah.
At MC?
McGonigal.
Okay, very good. And what we'll do, look at him, he already found it. That's fabulous.
So good.
What we also do is with the recordings, we always put the links of things that we think people want to know. Kimberly, I saw you nodding. I love, Gretchen, I love that you've been a professor and teaching this. I also love that you're sharing that TED Talk. I think it's extremely valuable. Kimberly, I saw you nodding when Gretchen was talking about it. Obviously, you've watched it, you use it. What
is amazing. Everyone, your homework is to go watch that TED Talk. It is phenomenal. And the other big message that bubbled up for me, both in my research and through talks, education like that TED Talk, is that there are two types of stress. There's distress, which we would categorize as negative, but again, it all comes down to perspective, to Gretchen's point. And then there's eustress. The fact that we get excited to go teach, the fact, if you get engaged to be married, like that is all still stress on our bodies, on our minds, and our lives, but it's considered, good stress. It all affects the body the same way. And where we can really implement change in our experience is our perspective. It's what are you going to focus on and how are you going to choose to see it? Because in any situation you find yourself in, if you're feeling overwhelmed or you're feeling betrayed or you're just feeling frustrated, you really can, again, to Gretchen's point, take a step back and kind of catch yourself. Because most of the time, because as I mentioned before, we tend to be on autopilot, our responses are more reactive than they are fully fledged intentional responses. And it was Viktor Frankl in his book, A Man's Search for Meaning, said between every action and reaction, or action and response, there is a space. And Jessica, you'll love this, that space is called grace. It is the opportunity to take a step back, to take a deep breath, to recognize that you get to choose your perspective here, which means you get to choose your response, which then means you get to choose the effect that it's going to have on your life experience in such a huge way. And so many people, and myself included for many years, we find ourselves in the habit of giving our power away. We determine whether or not we are going to be happy or sad, stressed or content based on the circumstances and the people's behavior outside of us. Mm-hmm. And to be able to say, you know what, no, that ends today. I'm taking my power back. I'm going to start catching myself when I go down familiar thought patterns and behavioral patterns that I know are not serving me and I know aren't going to make this situation any better or my life experience any better. I'm going to start catching myself and becoming more aware. And, you know, like Gretchen said, implementing that metacognition to be able to be aware that you are the thinker of the thoughts and to take a step back away from it so that you can get better perspective can change everything for the better.
Oh, I cannot agree with you more. I used to go into a situation with business where I'd walk into this room and I would literally get criticized over and over again by this same person. And it was like horrible. I remember the first day it happened, it was like I cried like half the night away. And I'm like, I have a law degree. I own a business. Why am I doing this to myself? And then the next time I went in, I only cried for an hour. Of course, that was after I called county, but it was probably a couple hours. And then the next time I went in, it's like, I didn't cry. And then the next time, finally, I felt like such an idiot. Finally, the next time I went in, the person started and I just kind of went, not today. And I walked away. And I was like, you know, you say, you know, I thought it was kind of like self-protecting and I just felt a little bit closed and like I had protected myself. But you just called it empowering. And that's what it feels like. When you decide, I'm not going to let the stress in. That's very, very empowering. And everybody on this phone call, it happens to everyone. It happens to Kamala Harris. It happens to everyone, which is really important to acknowledge because we're all in this together. So, which is totally cool. Okay, Jessica. Actually, Connie was the one who said, what are the health consequences of prolonged or extreme stress? Now, we heard some of the, chronic illnesses that can come from extreme stress. Jessica, what are some other things you see, some psychological responses, and the long-term effects on individuals?
I can speak from experience on this because I went through a traumatic loss in my life. My son passed away, and then I went through some other serious losses. And because of being in survival mode for so long, and I'm sure some of you can experience this or have experienced this, my cortisol levels were like, and I think Connie talked about, through the roof. And so I went through menopause at 42, and I am convinced it's because I allowed my body to live in these high stress levels. And I don't want to see that happen to women. It's awful. Fortunately, I've found ways to combat this and deal with it. But cortisol levels and stress and lack of sleep can really take such a toll on females' bodies in particular. I think men are, I don't know, they're just wired differently, right? My husband can sleep through anything. But definitely it can cause sleep disturbances, hormone issues, you name it, anxiety, depression, the list goes on. And we should not be living like this, ladies. We should be living, with joy and happiness and just feeling good. And so being proactive with your health is crucial. And it's also crucial to spread that message.
And thank you for sharing that, Jessica. It's like, I don't know about anybody else, but I'm like, don't cry. All right.
I'm an open book. I've been through it all. So if I can help someone else by sharing my story, I will.
What are some of the things that we can do to take care of ourselves? Because what I love about this is Emily wrote in the chat, she wrote survival mode for the past year. And we think we're coming out of it. And I thought, oh, isn't everybody getting in a better mood now? You know, it's summer is coming. I'm in the Midwest. I'm in Chicago, so I can say that. But summer is coming, not as opposed to Kimberly, who lives in horrible California. I hate you. But you know, it feels better, and we're coming out of the pandemic. And I went to the chiropractor today, and I forgot my mask, you know, and it was great. But I still feel that stress because we're going through yet another change. You know, how do we respond at sporting goods events, at the Indy 500 that's at 40% capacity sold out? You know, do we eat indoors at the restaurant when I'm so used to just having to sit outside? Jessica, what are some things we can do to deal with yet again another pivot?
I just did a talk to the American Heart Association, and I had 5 tips. One was movement, and I think we can all agree you have to move your body with purpose. It doesn't mean getting into an hour fitness class or going to CrossFit or, you know, going for a 3-hour run, but move your body with purpose. Number 2 is controlling your environment, you know, the people you surround yourself with. If you're watching the news all the time and on social media and not surrounding yourself with good people, it's time to really look at the people that you need to look at your environment. And if it's not lifting you up and serving your purpose, it's time to find a new environment. Getting outside, fresh air, vitamin D. You all know, like, vitamin D can help us fight not just COVID, but we need it in our bodies. Gratitude, which we all talked about, and practicing the pause, which I think we're all on the same page. I look at, you know, our minds as a plate. And I think we talked about this before we started. If we're putting too much food on our plate, yet we're eating it all, we feel sick. We shame ourselves, you know, we kind of spiral out of control. But the same thing happens when we are overcommitting and saying yes to everyone and everything. How is that serving us? It is mentally sabotaging us and overstuffing our brain. And so setting boundaries and practicing the pause and knowing it's okay to say no. Yeah.
I love that. And I think it was Rocky put in here, I find getting ready for hybrid classes a little stressful. Anytime there's change, there's going to be that stress and that pressure on us. Connie, and I see you nodding here. Little things we can do to pull our stress off. Just today, I took something off my plate, and it was just a little thing, and I felt, you know, like the heavens had opened up, and I just went, oh, okay, I can handle the rest of this. But Connie, what other things can we do? Because I always find you're kind of the queen of keeping things in perspective, for me at least, personally.
Well, I think there was a time where stress was overwhelming for me, and I did not handle it very well. I tried, but it's like this I couldn't tamp it down. And I will tell you that having both your sons graduate from college in the same week is a great way to de-stress. So if you can help people around you succeed, that takes some stress off of you. So if you can manage that one, that's good. But the other thing is that we've talked a lot about how you take care of your mental, how do you take care of your physical, but there's also a spiritual side, regardless of who you are. And some of the things that strategies you can use are things like, if I was my best friend, what would I say? If I was my best friend, how would I respond? Some of you have talked about, how do you respond? Practice the pause. Stephen Covey calls that response ability. We get to choose how we respond. We have the ability to respond the way we choose. So why can't we say, if I was my best friend, what would I do for myself? Chase Hughes is another amazing guy. He heads up the applied behavior something or other. And he says, if you had a butler, what would your butler do for you? And, you make your list. Well, those are the things you should do for yourself so that you're always serving your future self. Like if you want to wake up and have that delicious coffee right away, well, the night before, just set out a couple things so it's ready. If you're always overwhelmed picking out your clothing in the morning, choose it and set it out before you go to bed at night. Then that stress is gone for your future self. So looking to see how you can treat your future self well today will help you combat the stress of tomorrow.
And I do like that. I'm going to go right back to helping others, that it really feeds your soul. Connie, I'm just going to share this. One of her sons is like really pushing to get the older one graduated at the same time the younger one, and the older one needed more time. Connie and I share that with our kids, that some of them graduate right on time and some just take an extra year or two. But Connie sat down and really helped that son go, finish that last project. Helping somebody else, it feeds your heart, it feeds your soul, whether you're religious or not. Like Connie said, spiritually, it just does make you feel better. Gretchen, what are some other daily self-care practices that can improve both our mental and physical health?
So I actually saw somebody put this in the chat even. Rocky, I always feel better when I plan the night before. So I teach my clients when they're feeling like they're spiraling to go back to how we got there in the first place and to look at what it takes to make a behavior change, because incorporating planned self-care is a behavior change. So one of the things is routines. And I always say, if you don't have any other routines, you need to have an AM and a PM routine. And I'm not talking like, I always get the client that's like, sweet, okay, I'll get up, I'll work out for 30 minutes and then I'll make myself a smoothie. And no, back up. Very simply, like I get up, I make up my bed, I wash my face, I brush my teeth. Stuff that is super, super manageable, no matter how stressed you are. And Jessica, I think here, I've had clients that have dealt with a lot of trauma, and these things are really anchoring for them. It's because it teaches our brain, if you have something very simple at the beginning of the day, and that's self-care, friends. I mean, it doesn't have to be that fancy, right? If we have a very simple AM routine and a very simple PM routine, like setting out what we're going to wear the next day, or, like you said, Connie, your coffee. If we have these two anchors, it tricks our brain into thinking that we are in control. So no matter what happens in between all of that, if we can commit to these tiny little routines that are self-care at the beginning and the end of the day, then our brain goes, oh, this is good, this is the same. So if we can start practicing that now, then if big scary things happen or we just get overwhelmed, then we have those in place. And along with that, I don't let my clients, when they're struggling with overwhelm, write down more than 5 things to do that day, which sounds crazy if you're in the world that most of us are in, but they can put unlimited things in their reminders, but they can't write down more than 5. And what we find is that when we go back to the reminders, we've done all these other things, and it feels really cathartic to check off all these reminders because we're just not trusting ourselves to remember. So we're creating this stress for ourselves by writing this whole big to-do list. So there's 2 little tricks, right? Have your routines, write down 5 things a day.
And that's great. Those are, because it's documented, it's solid, it's visceral. For our staff, we all do to-do lists. We call them to-done lists. Okay, what did you do today? And then what do you have planned for tomorrow? And in little parentheses, you've got to put the day and the date of when you think you're going to accomplish these goals. So for leaders, several of us here are leaders, not just self-leaders, but we also have to, influence and lead others. It helps them, they set their own schedules, and they set their own parameters. And if you need to change it, you change it the next day. But it also is a little bit of goal setting, but it also, you should pat yourself on the back. Look at all these things I've done. Gretchen, I do love that. We're getting close to the end of our 45 minutes, and it's like flown by, and I absolutely love this, and you ladies have been amazing. So I'm going to ask you, Gretchen, just to give us a little bit of closure. You guys keep it short if you can, because as usual, I'm going to go over.
So closure on, I'm sorry.
Closure on, give me number one, your stress reducer takeaway. What's the number one thing you can do that you would recommend to people to prevent burnout?
All right, so my number one thing, I'm going to go back to the routines. Start there. It's so simple, and it's something concrete that you can implement right now.
Excellent. Connie?
I would say just do a little something every day, making sure your self-care is not a reward, but part of your life process.
Okay, love that. Jessica?
So good. I'm going to go a little off and say, when I went to the Ziglar Legacy certification, the one takeaway I had when I left was, how do I want to be remembered? And so when we're doing things, we need to have a purpose to them. And I want my kids to remember me not as that stressed out mom who's sick or can't do things with them, but I'm going to do things now. So when I'm gone, they'll remember, you know, how I lived my life. So if you can live your life thinking, what legacy do I want to leave behind, then I think you're winning.
Excellent. And Kimberly?
For me, I would just wrap it up by saying, first of all, thank you for being here with us. But the final note for me is that we know that you're all uplifters, you're nurturers, you are difference makers. It's why you chose to join us this evening. And what I always tell those that I work with that are these leaders like you are, is that if you really, really want to make a difference in the world, if you really want to be an uplifter for other people, you will first uplift yourself, because it's the only way you're going to maintain the bandwidth to be there for others. And to close with a quote I heard from Ayan Levansant at a conference many, many years ago. She said, yes, we want to be in service, and we should ask ourselves every day how we can uplift others, but may my cup runneth over so that I may give freely and be in service to others. But what's in the cup is mine, and don't you touch it.
And I just have to go back to Jessica for 1 second. What were you talking about, the wine delivery? Speaking of cups that runneth over.
So I don't know how many ladies, I guess this wasn't nationwide, but last, I want to say maybe April through August, there were all these Facebook groups called the wine fairies or the gift fairies. There's many different names. And so it almost became a competition of who could leave better gifts at people's doors. It was mostly women, I think. I don't know if men got involved, but and then people were requesting what they liked. It got a little out of control, but it was so nice because it was distracting people from, being shut down. So you could purchase something for someone and leave them a gift for them at the door.
It was that gift.
Being generous.
Wine fairy. That's my takeaway. All right, hang in there, guys. I got a quick video to show you. We've got our Nutrition Coaching Summit coming up June 19th. It's coming up soon. Let's watch the video. Love this. I think this is great. And it's wonderful to be able to offer this education. I got one more thing I'm going to show you guys. So we are going to look at our Active Aging Summit. We just launched it. Kind of exciting for us. So here we go. And here's our video for the conference. Exciting. So we've got these two upcoming events, one in June, one in July. August, we'll have our functional training Apex, trying to keep the world going until we really open up in October for Midwest and we get to, oh my God, I just want to touch people. Is that a little...
Get creepy.
It's creepy. Okay, speaking of which, all right, thank you all. Thank you, Kimberly, Jessica, Connie, Gretchen. Thank you, Sean, for taking good care of us tonight. And I will see you all on Thursday. Let me see if I've even got my little summary of my webinar for Thursday. It's Building Up Boomers, a Balance Act. Don't miss Thursday. Okay, guys, have a good night.